Came out, we're going to do a little eel fishing. We got to wait before the tide turns, and we couldn't think of a better way than to do a little squid fishing. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about how do you fish for squid. There's so many folks on the seacoast, New Hampshire area anyway, that have an interest in fishing for squid, and they don't know how, and it's a little easier to show you than it is to tell you. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the squid jigs that we use. So squid are primarily nocturnal. You're going to do best for them at night. If you don't have a boat, easiest place to catch them is going to be from docks, piers, bridges, preferably lighted ones. These work good for your base or your bottom. You need some weight on the bottom. The way I like to rig my squid jigs is a series like a sabiki rig, 3 or 4. That way I can run different colors and sizes, because there's going to be a specific size and there's going to be a specific color that's going to work better every time you go. And it might be, white works really well for a week or two, and then it'll be green or blue. And it might be a 2-inch, sometimes it might be a 3-inch, might be 3.5. There's going to be some subtle differences that are going to make all the difference for you as far as catching these squid. But this is basically what a squid jig looks like. It just looks like a small fish. They swim a particular way, and you can rig these up using dropper loops on a long leader. Put a loop on the bottom. Now you can either attach a weight to the bottom or a weighted squid jig. The strength of your leader is going to be dependent on how many jigs you want to run. The more jigs you have on one line, you want to consider the fact that if every one of those jigs hooks a squid, you're going to have a considerable amount of weight there, because they do pull quite a bit. So if you had 6 jigs and 6 squid, you're going to want to make sure you have a 20-pound leader. Now I just use dropper loops. I'm not going to try to show you how to tie a dropper loop. YouTube's great. There's 10,000 videos out there that'll teach you how to tie a dropper loop. They're really simple. You want to tie a loop on the bottom, and that's for your weight. You either want to use a plain sinker. I like to use one of these weighted squid jigs. It has a weight on the bottom. This will pull that down straight for you. And the amount of weight is going to be dependent on the amount of current. If you're fishing around bridge pilings, you might not want to fish with one of these bigger pronged ones. You might want to use weight, because this is what's going to catch on the barnacles and the seaweed that grow on the pilings, because the squid are going to congregate around the pilings the most. So a series of dropper loops. Tie put the loop through the eye of your jig and then back around the jig and just pull it. That way you can take them off. Don't use swivels. I tried that once, did a little experiment using a series of swivels, so it would make it easier to connect and disconnect different jigs, different colors. And I found that the noise that the jigs make rattling on the swivel spooks the squid, and they won't eat it. I've done a number of experiments with this to figure that out. So don't use swivels, use dropper loops. You have to tie a really long dropper loop. It has to be long enough to get your squid jig through, which can be difficult because they want to shrink down when you pull them tight. But with a little practice, you can get these jigs on there. Those are some of the smaller ones from Seawolf. And then some of the more common ones are the Yorzuri squid jigs. You may have seen these in a tackle store and not known what they were. These ones are white with some foil, and these ones glow. These ones have a swivel built into the head of them, which I like, so they don't twist up too much. You can get them in various colors. Green, like I said, sometimes green will be the hot color, sometimes blue will be the hot color, sometimes pink will be the hot color. You can either show up and see what everybody else is using, or you can stop into your local tackle store and look for the empty pegs. Go find the squid jigs, look for the empty pegs. The pegs that are empty or almost empty, that's the color everybody's buying, because that's the color that the squid are hitting on the most. Basically, you get your jig in the water and you don't have to do much with it. You just move it up and down a little bit. The main thing is when you feel something hit it, you don't set the hook with these, because you're just trying to get them to hit it. Once they hit it, they get caught on the prongs, and then you just reel it in nice and slow. Couple of tricks. The squid are full of ink, and they squirt out ink. So before you reel them in and bring them into the boat, let it hang in the water and until it's done squirting out. You'll see it'll go squirt, 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 squirt. That's squirting out a lot of the ink. Another trick is to have a bucket of water and put them in the bucket of water and let them finish inking out. And then you'll have much less of a mess when it comes time to take them home and clean them, because there won't be any ink left in them. so there'd be very little mess when it comes time to cleaning them. So the sun's getting ready to go down, the tide's about to go slack. We're going to go to a spot that we saw some squid here a couple days ago, and we're going to get the lights set up and get some jigs tied up and see if we can't catch some squid. We have a squirter. So we found some squid. We kind of picked away, one here, one there. Couldn't really pin them down. We were kind of back and forth between squid fishing and striper fishing. We had some wind. We came into a little cove here and tied up stationary. And just before slack tide, all of a sudden, I mean, we were seeing some squid, and we were catching, one maybe every 15 minutes or so. As soon as the tide stopped, it's almost as if the stripers that were chasing these squid, they don't really feed during slack water, so it was almost like they left, and the squid felt comfortable to come out here and roam, because we were getting them one right after another. And now the tide has turned and started moving back out the other way. And it's definitely slowed right down. We're not getting anywhere near as many, not seeing as many on the fish finder, on the sonar phone. But you're going to find most of the time that the squid are either going to be near the surface, which is where we were getting them earlier, or they're going to be down on the bottom, which is where we've been getting them the most recent, and the majority of the squid that we got were right off the bottom. Drop your rig right to the bottom. You got to be careful where you are. If you're on a rocky area or around a bridge where there might be some debris or structure below, you don't want to drop right to the bottom if you have a pronged, weighted squid jig on the bottom. But if you have just a regular weight, you can drop it to the bottom, lift it up off the bottom a little bit, and just kind of hold it, move it a little bit. You don't have to, you're not really jigging it like you would if you were vertical jigging stripers or lake trout or anything like that. You're just kind of letting that squid jig do its thing. And I've been experimenting with different colors and sizes, and found that smaller orange one seems to be doing the trick. So one thing to remember, when you let them ink out, you want to keep tension on these guys when you fight them. You don't want to lower them back down into the water. You always want to keep tension on them, because since there are no barbs, they can fall right off if you let any tension on them whatsoever. Pretty cool looking animal. Do you know that squid has the largest eye in proportion to its body of any animal on Earth? In case you care. This guy's getting ready to ink again, and I don't want to get covered with ink, so there we go. He's probably going to get me, but almost. So it's not rocket science, it's just a lot of fun. And I want to tell you what, if you like calamari and you've never had fresh squid that's never been frozen, I highly recommend getting out here and trying this.